All right, good morning, everybody. We are going to do a quick audio video check, and then we are going to be on our way for an open show this morning. Just want to make sure we get rocking and rolling. All right, good morning, everybody. Perfect. Okay, we'll get Instagram going too. And we are going to get after it today, folks. All right. So, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful Saturday morning here. It has been insanely balmy here in Minnesota. We've had some 50s. I think today or tomorrow is going to approach 60. All of our snow is thawing. My creek, my pond is filling up back here, and it's absolutely beautiful. So, thank you, everybody. This is the Ask a Painter live show. This is a weekly live Facebook show. I've been doing this for 249 weeks consecutively without missing a week. That is a lot of weeks. We're getting up there in many, many years. I use my over 2 decades of experience as a master craftsperson, as a business owner in the trades to help spread perspective and answer any questions. I obviously do not have all of the answers, but I do have a lot of data points. I have perspective, and I love collaborating with other people to spread those data points and perspective, because the trades are the Wild West and we are all in this together, and we need to deliver a better product to our clients, and we will all do this together. So thank you, everybody, for watching this. The kindest thing you can do for a show like this is to like the Ask a Painter live page, leave me a review, a recommendation, or a comment there, and then share this show as well. If you know people who are like-minded, who want to provide some of the best jobs, the most satisfying jobs to young, interested, curious craftspeople out there, to serve our clients the best, to sort of professionalize this industry, share it. Tag somebody in this, and let's do this together. So I would be remiss if I didn't mention the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. So all the things that I talk about: trades reformation, apprenticeship, constant improvement, core values, tractioning your business, professionalization. These are the missions of the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. And just like an SOP isn't worth anything unless there's people there to either use it or hold other people accountable to it. All the information inside the PCA is completely worthless. They have one of the largest archives of information anywhere. It is completely useless unless people see it, use it, and do something about it. So I would urge you, the PCA has something really cool. It's sort of like the Netflix of paint business and craftsman painting content. It's called Overdrive. If you guys are interested, inside the PCA website, look up Overdrive. It has a super cool sort of like, not cultivated, what word I'm thinking? It's organized, it's interesting. And the interesting thing about the PCA is that the PCA's website is like this little secret door to this monster archive of some of the best information you'll ever have. Right now, and over the past year, the PCA has been working diligently to organize this and make it easier to consume, more readily available, things like that. So I would urge you, all the questions that you have about painting, about running a paint business, are probably answered there. And if you have any questions, obviously you can always ask me about it. But thank you, everybody. Good morning. Why don't we, here we go. All right. Any question, any topic, anything you guys want to talk about? People have been responding to my post yesterday on Instagram and Facebook about what they want to talk about. We'll go through some of those. Let's see. Facebook. Paul Rafferty, Mark Blackhurst, good morning. John Milkovich, good morning from Pennsylvania. Chris DeGidio, awesome. Brian Chemnitz, what do you think of the Graco jet roller? Love it. Have one. It's a great thing. The best use I've found for the Graco jet roller is big commercial projects. The last one we used it on was a big industrial project where they make auto parts. It was about 20 or 25 foot walls of new cinder block. And because we just couldn't go crazy and spray, we actually used the jet roller. It was kind of a surgical way to get in there and get after it. So beach house painting, donuts, fried or baked. Good question. Whatever our local bakery does here. We have a bakery called Laos Czech Bakery. I love that. I believe they fry them. Those are delicious. I like that. Lucas, hello from Norway. Lucas and I talk regularly. John Milkovich, what are some of your challenges developing your drywall SOP? I'll tell you, my biggest pet peeve with a lot of the trade stuff is when I ask a drywaller, like, hey, you thin your mud when you applied a knockdown, like, what's the ratio of water? It's like, I don't know. I just take a sponge and I mix it up till it's the consistency of peanut butter. And I was like, that's not helpful. That's not replicable. You need something a little more exacting. So what I do is, and I actually had the help of a gathering of Minnesota painters. I've done this a couple times with drywall. I've actually been teaching myself drywall processes for probably about 6 months, but really I've been out in the field for the last 2 weeks, actually like working with my craftspeople. I've been applying knockdown texture. I've been scraping. I've been prepping. I've been documenting the process, getting times down and things. And it's really awesome. Two things, which was I actually went out and I skim coated a historic ceiling with a couple of my craftspeople. And I actually measured out the water that goes into mud to make it a certain consistency. And I documented the process of what it looks like with each amount of water. A really cool thing too is I deputized my shop manager, Brandon, high-speed young Brandon, to say, again, we've been dispersing 20-minute mud, the powder kind, throughout the craftspeople in my business. So if they do need to do a quick skim, they have a bucket of mud. The problem with this, the reason why we never use powdered mud in my company is because it's a variable. Our company is made up of a lot of people who have not been in the trades their entire life. And if you add variables like having to thin your paint, having to step on it with catalyzers, having, just mixing, there's always room for human error. And I don't want to insert that in my company. So I just deputized my shop manager, like, Brandon, listen, to mix 20-minute mud in the consistency that we need to skim coat, I need you to tell me how many cups, how many ounces, how many whatever, but we need a 1-to-1, we need a 2-to-3, we need a 1-to-4, we need some sort of ratio that we know is replicable. So what he did the test in the shop, and we actually got brand new white Deuce buckets, 2-gallon buckets, and he just put the mix in there, and he actually just wrote on the top of the lid, this is the ratio of mud, and then he handed them out to all the crews. So again, standardizing. In about a half an hour or an hour of testing, you can standardize it, remove the variables, and move on with your life. Instead of saying, well, I don't know, you just take a sponge full of water and you squeeze it in there until it's the right consistency. That's not great. That's not replicable by young people who haven't had 3 decades in the trades like this. So, but no, that's it. It's really fun. And honestly, if there's a lot of head trash about drywall out there, and yes, hanging board is construction-y. You got to know some things. There's C-channel for sound deadening. There's all sorts of other, regulations, overs, this and that. But when it comes to actually like mudding, taping, texturing, getting rid of textures, fixing joints, things like that, there's a lot of head trash about it. You think, well, that's only that drywallers could do. Really, the prep work we do as painters. The cleanup work is painters. The skimming we do as painters. Even popcorn removal. We have garden sprayers, the pump sprayers like that, and we remove wallpaper. Removing wallpaper is arguably way more subjective, way more prone to error, way harder than stripping popcorn ceilings. Popcorn ceilings are great. They're actually a lot of fun to strip when they don't have 17 coats of oil paint on them. So it's really interesting. There's this head trash like, oh, how could we ever do that? Well, really, we can do 4 of the 5 steps already, and we do it really well. All we need to do is teach our people how to spray texture. And that's it. And that's pretty easy. I got out in the field this last week and did some with my most senior craftsmen. And it was awesome. It was fun. And it was way easier than I thought. So yeah, something we'll be teaching a lot more of our people in there. So, Chris Moll, Guten Tag. Chris Moll from across the pond. You're mixing lots of cultures there, Chris. Chris is English dude in northern Minnesota who hunts bobcats and is one of my favorite people in the industry. So, all right. Let's see what else we got here. Joran from the Netherlands. How's it going, man? John, no problem. All right. Beach House. Thoughts on customers who demand on supplying paint. So this is one of our non-negotiables. Somebody said this that's way smarter than me, and I stole it, of course, because we do nothing. We do nothing new under the sun. Nothing I do is really original. I just combine a lot of stuff in an effective way. Somebody once said this, and I stole it. I have a proven process for making you happy. This is me talking to a client. If you deviate from this process, your statistical probability of happiness goes down with each deviation. I supply the paint. That makes sure that I get the premium paint, I get it in the right color, I get it in the right quantity, and I get it where I want it, when I want it. If you decide to do this, if you pick the paint, you pick the color, you pick the quantity, you pick when and where it is, I can't guarantee anything from here on out. Labor is the most expensive part of a paint job. Materials is 10 to 15%. If you think you can supply the paint and save some money, you may be spending 30 to 50% more for an extra coat of paint. And that's the expensive stuff. So I just tell people, listen, we have a proven process. You have to trust us. And we understand if you don't, because there's not a lot, I shouldn't say that. There are many untrustworthy operators out there in the trades. So if you don't trust a tradesperson, I don't take it personally. But the problem is we're one of the good ones. You can trust us. I've devoted my life to this. If you don't allow us to do our proven process for you, the statistical probability of your happiness will go down with each deviation like that. So, yep. Michael Conley, good morning. Holly, how do I get a good Sherwin-Williams rep? I've only had one reach out to me once, missed the call, tried calling back the end. Holly, so there are some truths about paint reps. The more you spend, the more action, the more attention you get, things like that. I've always had the thought about a paint rep like, listen, they are going to come around and try to sell you stuff. That's their job. Don't hold it against them. Don't take it personally. I've always had the stance from early on that I will never bug my rep. In one of my first year or twos of business, a Sherwin-Williams paint rep took me to a golf tournament, and it was a golf tournament full of paint reps. These poor people, I was going to use another word, these poor people were on their phone constantly. They could not set their phone down to hit a golf ball because painters kept calling them and telling them, hey, I need you to come over here and tell this homeowner I didn't ruin their house. You know, they have paint peeling, they have something bleeding, something didn't go right, the paint flashed, the color wasn't right. And all they did was take calls all day from painters who didn't do a good job, didn't do their due diligence, don't have SOPs, aren't professionalized, saying you need to come here and tell this client that I didn't ruin their house. And then these poor paint reps are caught between a rock and a hard place because they're an advocate for you, the client, and they want to sell you paint. But also they know that a lot of these painters don't do things very well, and they don't want to lie to a client. I mean, that's just not a good human to human golden rule sort of thing. So I made a promise early on that I will never, ever, ever bug my paint rep. I will say hi. I will never ask for anything out of the ordinary. What's really interesting is that when I was a small operator, I still had a pretty good relationship with my rep. I got really lucky. I had a paint rep who jived with me, and he's actually been here for a long time. Kismet. It's been a greatest thing. He's actually helped me grow my business. We're active collaborators together. I think I posted somewhere else too. He actually brings me farm eggs every Monday morning now, and we hunt together and we do stuff. We're very fortunate to have each other. We like that a lot. I never bugged him for anything. Every single problem, every single time we needed or something happened on a job site, it was obviously my fault. I would never call my paint rep and ask him to stand there. This pays off in a couple ways. In 13 years of business, I had one extreme failure of paint. We painted an awesome client of mine, painted the outside of their house re-sided with LP siding. It's just beautiful siding. He's a master carpenter. He did it all himself. We used a very deep kind of foresty green paint, and we did just what we always do. We prep everything off perfectly. We did a color test. We applied 2 coats, just beautifully applied of paint, and within like 6 or 9 months, it completely faded. I mean, completely different color, burned out. It looks like it's been in the Sahara Desert for 20 years. And that was a clear indication that, listen, we do hundreds of these every year, and it never happened. And in a decade, it never happened. It happened this once. So then that's when you call upon your paint rep. You say, listen, you and I have a track record. I've never asked you for anything. We can all agree objectively that this is a paint failure. And now I'm going to call upon you. And because we have this trust, and I haven't been needling them over the years, they paid for me to repaint this entire house, labor, materials, everything, as they should have. It was a clear paint failure, but that's when the relationship comes into contact. Don't have this relationship where it's like, I hate these negotiations because your paint reps will come to you every year and say, hey, guess what's coming? 5% paint increase. Like, yeah, of course, inflation is 3 to 5%. Big companies are going to raise their prices. That is absolutely fine. But people approach it like, hey, bad news coming. I want to ease into this. We got to no, forget it, man. We're not here to do that. Listen, there's nothing I can do about the price increase anyway. Moving on with my life. So I hate walking into those things like these oppositional sort of relationships where it's like, he's got to charge me 5% more. I feel like my profitability is being held back by my paint discount, which is absolutely not true. You are not unprofitable. If you're unprofitable, you are not unprofitable by whatever your paint rep charges you for paint. It's always labor. So yeah, just one of those fun things. So I absolutely love my paint rep. Very fortunate to have him and many others too. There's 3 that call upon me. Just awesome people. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Rick, plaster repairs are one of our specialties, and I've never thought of getting mixed standardized. You're going to throw me in a wormhole? Dude, listen, you have got to do that, especially if you're into plaster and stuff too, where there's a little more chemistry. Drywall mud is kind of a simple thing. There's mud that dries quicker, mud that's harder, mud that's a little stickier, and you mix it up. Basically, the consistency is just the ease of applying it and things like that. So I would love to hear that. Rick, if you go down that rabbit hole, I would love to see that. So, all right, Lucas, I have a small project of painting a door, one side of the door. Do you always start airless? No. As a matter of fact, most of the times when we paint doors, we brush them just because it's easier, because it takes a lot of hours to either take it off and prep it, and then you have an unsecured house or something like that. So, all right, I tell you what, Chris Sherris, good to see you. All right, let's see here. Mike Wells, what's your favorite exterior paint sheen on a pre-painted wood house? We've used A100 exterior satin for 90% of the jobs. I see lots of people who use A100, a lot of them like that, and with pretty good results. For me, again, materials are a very small portion of these projects. So I just figured, why not just use the best? It's not a big deal. So our go-to would be a Sherwin-Williams Duration. We prefer flat, but we've kind of been liking the matte as well, since they came off with that a couple years ago. So that's been good. That's been kind of our go-to. And yeah, I know tons of guys who use a super paint, A100, all sorts of stuff like that. But yeah, we've just had really good luck with that. And I feel that, paint is 10 to 15% of a project. To get the worst stuff or the best stuff is the difference between 7 to 8% materials and 12 to 15%. So for me, it's not I just use the premium stuff no matter what. So. All right, let's go through, see if we got any IG questions here. These things that seem like you need experience are simplified with some directions. Yes. Yes, Rue. Spending dollars to save pennies. Yep. He loves his rep too. It's weird how many people don't like the reps paint school. Well, what's interesting is that there's the personality thing. Sometimes personalities don't jive. I have had paint reps in the past where they were all about, hey, here's this new product. It's like, yeah, you know what I do. I'm not interested. I just want a good relationship. I want good service. And I want to have a collaboration with somebody. And some guys aren't up to that, but a lot of them are. It's a really good thing. So, all right. Oh, here we go. Wild Acres Construction. I actually wrote your question down from Instagram. Advice on trying to stay a 1 or 2 man show. Yes, I love this. So growing a business isn't the destiny for everybody. And happiness, satisfaction is all kind of in the eye of the beholder. I've lived all these sort of things. So in earlier iterations of this company, when I was a single person painter, you still do the same thing. And in fact, I've been sharing this document, how to professionalize your business. It's not so that you can grow it to a monster business. It's so that you can actually have a professionalized business. And whether you're a 1-person company, 3 or 50, these are things that you need to do, just like normal businesses do this. A gas station does this. A hotel does this. A restaurant normally does this, depending on the restaurant. But these are things like job costing, professionalization, tracking expenses, comparing them to benchmarks to see your profitability, making a plan, making a budget, things like that. These are things that aren't just big businesses do. These are things that single owner operators should do as well. I'm a firm believer. I have lots of data points here that at least in the painting trade, if you're a single person operator or a dual person operator or a 3-person operator, I'm a firm believer that you should probably take home into your pocket about half of what you make a year. And that's the data I've been getting from my own company and from other painters around here, that, if you can make $150,000 of revenue a year. That's $13,000, $14,000, $15,000 a month, give or take. You should be taking home $70,000 to $75,000 in your pocket every year. And obviously, you have a large sort of like weight to bear on your shoulders. You're going to have to do the estimating. You maybe have to do some of the book work, things like that. You have to do all the painting too. But there is something to be said about controlling the process 100%. That is the way, honestly, to deliver an insanely high quality controlled product to your clients. Everything is as promised. You can promise something and you can deliver it yourself. And that's an insanely good way to go through business. So when I talk about business growth, when I talk about PCA, when I talk about professionalization, this is not a judgment call. There are beautiful, beautiful versions of this company from one person to 180 people. And it's just a wonderful thing. So, all right. Let's see what else we got here. Ron Rice, absolutely use the best paint always. John, for those who have salespeople and PMs in residential commercial repaint, how do you successfully pass job from closed sale to starting the job without the salesperson physically being on the job? Ooh, John, I like this one. So John does this way better than I do with a much bigger company. So John, you probably know this, but it's an awesome question. So salespeople to PM. So what we do is we use common language. Our estimates are laid out in a way where the work order is very similar to it, where we can sort of just copy and paste a lot of stuff and move it into our work order. Our work order, I think, is the key. I think our work order is the key to making sure that things get translated one step farther, even to the painters. Our production managers, our two production managers in the company, are absolute wizards, world class at taking the estimates that Andy and I make and translating them. And it's basically, we have a clear layout on our estimate. There's almost no paragraphs, words, whatever. It's just list of rooms, what portion of the room, and a price for the room. And the way that this gets translated the best is by the process of our two production managers onboarding a client. So their initial email to the client just basically asks to verify scope. The scope gets verified. They highlight that on the estimate. And based on that, then their next question is color. And then that translates right to our jump sheet, which is our work order, where they write that down. There is not, what we don't have is a Zapier to do that. You know what I mean? This is a human to human thing, because when somebody accepts a painting estimate, they really kind of want to like talk to somebody. And by talk, I mean like an email from somebody like that. My production managers are also really good about getting on the phone too. They know sometimes when a certain demo of our clients, like, okay, this would be more effective if we just called them and got this information. But either way, it's that super attentive way. And the other thing, I think, John, and these are unsatisfying, because what would be helpful, John, is like, oh, I use this app. And John even creates his own software, WorkGlue. It's a phenomenal thing. I think a lot of people want like, oh yeah, I just use this program, and as soon as I hit sold on this estimate, it automatically does this. It's perfect, and the painters get it, and we do it perfectly. But it is a lot of human interaction. I think one of the other things that Justin and Holly, my production managers, do well is they attack it very swiftly. We talk a lot about the velocity of the process here. When Andy and I go out and do estimates, the velocity is high. We want to get them an estimate instantly, both on paper, in their email, everything, close the loop, do all our paperwork, done, put an X over it. We have now completed this estimate, moving on. Production managers do that too. When Andy and I sell a job, we use Trello for our project management. We create a card in Trello, move it over, we kick it over to production managers. If they get an instant notification, and they attack swiftly, because we know when somebody makes a decision, we got to get on that right away. So, all right, Mike Wells, I'm going to use duration flat on my next exterior. Well, you're not going to be disappointed, man. And there's a lot of companies. I used Benjamin Moore Aura for years. I mean, probably 8 years of my experience of professional life. Awesome paint. Duration's awesome. Give it a try, man. There's some times where paying extra money for a premium paint doesn't equate into a direct value. For exteriors, for me, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going to go through all the hard work, get a good product on there too. Reed, how do you broadcast to Instagram and Facebook at the same time? So I'm actually broadcasting to Instagram through my iPhone and through my desktop, and an app called Be Live. I go to Facebook. So a little bit of both. It's kind of fun. Kevin Hayes, love my sales rep, but I ask Her 2 questions here. She calls me back to check on. Paul Rafferty. Just out of interest, percentages. You use oil, paint to water, or hybrid coatings, knowing your oil-based paint materials are going to be soon a thing of the past. Yes, Paul. We run almost exclusively oil primer when we do cabinets and trim. Everything else, the drywall primers are all water-based. Deep base primers for accent walls, same thing. But yeah, right now, oil primer is cheap, readily available, and as far as I know, is not going away in the near future. But we've already have a contingency plan for the last 5 years. I am really interested in primers because I'm looking for that unicorn. And this is when I call my rep. He's like, hey, what can I do for you? I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for calling. Here's exactly what you can do for me. I want a water-based primer that sticks to cabinets and trim that are previously finished. I want it to sand beautifully. I want it to block stains. I want it to never chip. I want it to be $17 a gallon and readily available everywhere I go. That's a unicorn. I will wait for that day when that primer. Now, there's instances, there's things like Zinsser Smart Prime, there's Sticks that does this most of the time. The problem is it's not a 100% no bad data point product yet. And I'm not willing to gamble on somebody's whole house trim project. So for now, we use oil primer. Now, if oil primer went away now, Paul, what I would do is go to a hybrid primer. Sherwin makes them, Benjamin Moore makes them, almost everybody else makes them, where it's basically the same idea as the hybrid enamels. It's just a primer. And I would go to that now. Now, upsides and downsides, it takes much longer to dry, but that would be my next best right now. Holly Barlow, I just want to know how to get a discount on paint from someone who knows what compares to Benjamin Moore. Couple questions there. The best way to get a discount is to buy a lot of paint, honestly. I'm not going to lie to you there. In my humble opinion, John Busick, robots, computers cannot solve this. Absolutely. Without human interaction and communication, it fails. Yeah, man. Listen, John, you've been doing it way better, way longer than I have. You know this. It's confirmation of it. There are things that should be automated. There are things that should be farmed out. But when a client is willing to pay you the type of money that it commands to paint the whole inside or whole outside of their house, a little personal service is probably worth it. Oh, let's see. Jason Paris, friend of the show and guest last show, 248. That's a thick show. It's a dense show. There's lots of stuff in there. Nick Slavic, my daughter recognizes the upper right screen logo because those stickers are all over my house. The face stickers. Yeah, my kids have been active in my office. I got a shipment of the Nick Slavic face stickers. My kids are putting them everywhere. So speaking of kids, my 2 boys are outside right now. One of them's got a coonskin hat, and they both got their little BB guns. They're walking around hunting for stuff. So fun being out here at the Slavic farm. Jason Paris, I've never been more embarrassed than seeing the top fan thing next to my name. Congratulations, man. Point of pride. John Busick, Jason Paris, I wore a Slavic shirt at the last family meeting. They also recognize the brand. Yes, so some people will recognize this as well. I send shirts out once in a while with that stuff on it. So, all right, let's go back to IG here. Paint school. We always detailed the specific area on the contract, so there's no confusion and nothing left to speculation. That is a great thing to do. And the interesting thing about that paint school is that making your contracts and your estimates simple contracts and estimates are sometimes more effective than insanely legalistic stuff. People have sent me copies of their contracts, of their estimates, of their things that they give to clients in order to sell a paint job. And some of them have been 18 pages long to paint the cabinets and a couple rooms in their house. And I will say, yes, legally, you are fully covered. But if you ever have to go to that document, it's already lost. If you have to hold up a legal document in order to get your client to do something, the relationship has already failed. So I've always taken the approach of a 2-sheet thing. Your estimate is super simple. Somebody wants to know what the price is for something. Well, good. We're going to make it easy. Here's the name of the room. Here's the thing we're going to paint in the room. Here's a price for the room. All of our processes are detailed on a 1-page thing. It's basically an FAQ that's separate from that. So if they're really interested, not only will I explain it to them, they have another sheet there as well. All right. Artist touch painting. It's smart to price out individual room on the contract for the client or just the whole job. Ooh, this is something, yes. So not many things I take a hard stance on. I do heavily itemized estimates. So when somebody asks me, yes, price them out individually. I like that. I do not separate material and labor, but I do give a single price for each thing. The best example of that is, let's see if I can actually find one for you guys here. I'll pull up another screen here. Give me just a second, guys. I will actually show you an example of one of my bigger estimates. So even when I do a whole house trim, wall, cabinet, closet, ceiling sort of job, what we end up doing is basically making a matrix for them. We have the rooms listed here. We have the items in the room to be painted, and it's a huge matrix of prices. Now, huge matrix sounds complicated. It is not complicated. What I will do is I'll show you an example. Sorry, I'll pull this up here. We got some slow farm internet. So, let's see if we can enhance. So this is basically walls, trim, cabinets, and this is simplified. Normally we have closets, we have ceilings and everything in there. They did not want that, but this is basically it. So I will have the rooms listed right down here. I think you can see my mouse going there, and we'll have what we're going to do here. And we have just some simple pricing, so they can just look at it and say, this is what it is. And then we'll have another sheet that will basically show people, like this is our process. This is our sort of prep process for trim and cabinets and other things like that. So. Let's see what we got here. Paint school. We always detail each specific area on the contract. Absolutely. All right, kind of strange question, but do you take your drop cloths to the laundry mat or do you keep them clean? Yes, so we're kind of in a rhythm of once a year, we somehow clean them. We've done this in a lot of things. We've taken them to laundromats in the past. We're big enough now where people have actually taken them home, individual crew people. But the standard operating procedure for the drop cloth thing is what we normally do is shake it out on a hard surface in the house, not shake it out, like billow it out, but like, if we're on a hardwood floor, what we'll do is we'll go towards like the entrance of the house. When we're done with the job, we'll sort of like go through the folding process. We'll shake out the dust out of the floor, sweep vacuum, wipe up all the dust there, or we'll take it outside if it's nice enough. We'll shake them out in the yard, fold them, and then put them in the vans for the next job. The goal there is just not to drag anything from one job site to another. Norton Custom Finishes. How do you manage projects taking longer than anticipated, particular kitchen cabinets? Well, that depends. Managing a project that's taking longer is two things. The time, just schedule it out. If it's taking longer, put more people in it. But it's a people person. It's a people problem. So basically, the thing is, I was on a webinar this last week. Somebody asked me to speak, and the topic of it was, how do you get your employees to listen? And I bristled a little bit at the question, because it's more like you need to create trust and a warm family environment and a foundation where you can have a relationship where it reciprocates like this. A lot of that is solved. Like what I hear when somebody says, how do I get my employees to listen? What I hear is, why doesn't everybody just do what I tell them to do? That's not a great way to go through life with relationships. So how this is solved is expectations up front. I would say if learn or earn, if your project goes over budget, what are you going to learn from it? Is there a standard operating procedure for cabinet painting in your company? Have you trained rigorously your people on how to do that? Have you verified and held them accountable to that? Did you show up on site and say, show me where you are in the steps? Let's talk about the steps previous. Let's talk about the steps next. Have you made a project plan for them? For our projects, our painters make an hour-by-hour account of what they're going to do by the day, by the week, for the project in order to get it under budget. It helps them think through the process and helps me interact with them like that. So I would say all of that stuff is done beforehand. Now, things happen all the time, and you can adjust and get it done. The most important thing you can do, Norton, is learn or earn. If it's not a big earning job, you must learn a lesson. Write that lesson down and then never repeat it again. People who can adjust like that do much better, quicker. Let's see here. Let's go back through some IG. Okay, Rue. What do you use to write out estimates? I've been using Joyce, but it doesn't let me segment different things. We actually use Google. We've created everything that we have basically on Google here because we want it to do exactly what we want, and I'm fine putting in the effort to make it happen like that. Now, with inputs and stuff like that, it's a little more open to human error. But what we get in return is something that absolutely fits our business. And I'll pull something up here. See if I can get to the right. So basically what we do, we take a Google spreadsheet like this. And what's super sneaky about this stuff is, we can do a whole house trim, cabinet, wall, ceiling estimate in about 40, 45 minutes. That's from greeting the person, going through their house, getting all the measurements, writing it up, printing it off in the van, bringing it back in. And the secret to this is a feeder sheet, which we call. So this is an actual worksheet. You can see I clicked on another lower tab down here. This is the estimate that the client sees. This is our worksheet or feeder sheet where we write the rooms down here, and then we have options for windows, we have options for doors, we have options for cabinets. And I set this template up so all of our production pricing, all of our unit pricing is in here. All we do is say, okay, we have 4 casement windows, so just write a 4 next to casement windows and it auto-populates the price. We have 2 French doors and 3 passage doors, so go to French doors 2, passage doors 2, and it basically just takes all that information here and kicks it out into the front. Again, keeping it clean. I don't want my people to look through an 18-page sheet. So we use Google for this. Now, we had to create it all, but it's not a big deal. If anybody's done a basic spreadsheet, this is not coding a computer. This is adding and subtracting and things like that. So if you take the time to set this up, this is a beautiful system now. And my estimator and Andy and I operate with this stuff very well. It's a very intuitive thing once you get it all set up. And IG people, I'm showing you my estimate template. So you probably want to head over to Ask a Painter pretty soon here. Paint School QuickBooks for estimating invoices. Absolutely. Yeah. QuickBook takes time to build as well. Yep. There we go. Yes. Decorating Company UK. Can't see your sheets on Instagram. Yes. This is being broadcasted live on Facebook. Look for Ask a Painter. The feed is all there. You'll see the same exact thing, only you'll get to see my screen shares with that. So, all right, let's see what else we got here. Eric Sowers, struggling with training process. Any recommendations on video or manuals? So again, I say this all the time. This is an unsatisfying answer. A video, a manual, a written SOP, something like that is 10% of training a human. Human to human contact, constant correction, coaching, mentoring, verifying, giving goals. Accountability is what trains somebody quickly. So we use manuals, we use videos, we use all that stuff, but that's 10% of it. Check out the PCA, the Painting Contractors Association. They have something called the Trade Best Practice that you can use. That's basically sort of like an intro to the industry, and it's a very good process for that. I'm happy to help with any other stuff, but honestly, if I sent you my training manual, it would fail if you don't operate it properly with another human. So, yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Oh yeah, Chad Devereaux. I wrote down your question right here from Facebook too. So, what's your experience with paid lead generation companies, Yelp, Home Advisor? So they are not bad. They actually do a really good thing if you dedicate your life to operating them. I'm not a big fan. I like to build my own client base that's divorced of somebody else controlling it. It's a little harder work. You can't just pull a lever and make leads appear, but it's a much more stable base. That's just how I operate my business. Now, I know there are tons of really good painting companies out there that go strictly with the lead gen sites. Now, the key is from all the feedback and data points that I've got from this is if you want to be successful with something like that, you must dedicate your life to it. The key to winning with those things are if you pay for a lead and the lead gets sent to you, you must stop everything you're doing and attack that lead all the way till the end. If you wait half a day, if you wait a third of a day, that's a done lead, nothing there. So that's what I would recommend. If you're interested in that stuff, you can always give it a try. But you're going to have, it's not simple where it's like, yeah, leads will come in, we'll get to them, it'll be great, it'll be normal. You must do some very specific, very high velocity things in order to make that effective for you. So Okay. Wild Acres. Fine Paints of Europe primers. Your thoughts? Great primers. It's fine. There are not structural, there are logistical problems with some of that stuff. Number one, they're very high priced, which normally I don't care. If you pay for good stuff, it's fine. It'll save labor. But the nearest store to me is 50 minutes, 55 minutes away, and it's the only store in the 5-state area. So I'm lucky to be that close, but logistically, it would be tough. We need things on a moment's notice. With our other paint manufacturers, we have stuff delivered to our shops multiple times in the week. That would not necessarily happen with that. And also quantities. Quantities are generally limited, and sometimes we need large amounts of stuff on a moment's notice. So again, it is good. This is not saying it's not good, but there are other products that are way more readily available. But the good thing is, I think of craftsmanship, craftspersonship, and the basics of the trade as kind of like tools and weapons you could yield. I don't downplay any coating in the industry. There's a place for everything there, and every manufacturer has really good coatings. There's just other things you have to take into account, like logistics, where it is, how can you get it, what's the quantity, things like that, and then weigh those and say, well, for me, for my kind of company, for the things we promise, and for the place we live in, maybe one thing is a little more advantageous than the other. So let's see here. Okay, back to Facebook. All right. Let's see here. Oh boy, we're stacking up the comments here. I'll try to go through these quick here. Ryan Koischel, thoughts on taking on older home exteriors, good or bad ideas, pros and cons. That is made and break in the prep. Once you get a couple of these under your belt, please track your materials, please track your labor, because people almost always underestimate this by a big part, especially prep. Prep is very subjective. We practice something called reasonable restoration on old homes, where insane restoration is taking the whole home down to bare wood and starting over. Reasonable restoration is we are going to reasonably remove all of the very loose paint in this house. If paint has failed, it will continue to fail in the future, but we cannot devote 4 months to scraping the paint off. We have options here. We can strip your house down to bare wood, or we can do a reasonable restoration and still give you an insanely good paint job, but you're not paying for 4 months worth of work for 3 crews. So I will tell you this, it's made or broken in the prep part. And you really want to pay attention. If you take on a house, even houses that are up to 20 years old and have wood siding, a lot of those peel like crazy too. Document what the house looked like when you estimated it. Document all your prep process, especially how much time it took for each side of the house. Document what it looked like after, and then you have a data point to say, if I see a house like this, with this sort of circumstances, it took me 60 hours of prep. Now you know. Now you know when you get into the next house. If the industry average is $55 an hour, it took 60 hours of prep, you're looking at over $3,000 in just prep on a house like that. And you can use that as a knowledge point to guide yourself in the future. They are made or broken in prep. Oh, Wendy Anderson, awesome client, Wendy Anderson. A beautiful old home, actually, up in St. Paul. Do you paint Victorian clawfoot tubs? Yes, I have. Now, when people ask this, they usually ask one of two things. Painting the inside, which is actually technically like enameling or powder coating, and the outside. I had a clawfoot tub in my historic home that we sold this last year, and I painted the outside. It was original to the house. The porcelain over the cast iron was still in great shape inside, so I didn't touch it. But I did paint the outside. So basically, a lot of these tubs have already been painted. So really, you just have to determine if the paint on it currently is oil or water. Just do a little scratch test. You can just use a standard wall paint on the outside of a tub. You can use an enamel and get crazy. But honestly, I've had good luck. I've painted probably a dozen in my life. Some of them I've done with like super high quality wall paint. Some of them I've done with enamel, like oil enamel too. All that is fine. But if you're curious, take a little bit of primer or something after you prep it and just do a couple square inch spot, Wendy, with that, and then just see if you can scratch it off. If you can't scratch it off, you got a good bond, prime it and paint it with whatever you like. Mike Wells, have you ever heard of failure on cabinets using Chemaqua primer and paint? Using this, caulk is cracking and popping after paint is curing. Yeah. I use your procedures on cabinets and vanities using cover stain and Scuffex. Turned out beautiful. Do you caulk cabinets? Only the seams where they meet the walls. We do not caulk floating panel doors. That is a big no-no, at least in my neck of the woods here. They're called floating panel doors for a reason. That inner panel of a cabinet door floats. And seasonally, I mean, again, in 1 week, we had over 110-degree swing, give or take. Or not, excuse me. In 1 week, we went from about -35 to about 40. So what is that, 70? 75-degree swing here in Minnesota, humidity up, humidity down, things like that. Wood and cabinet doors are going to move in a house, and they need to continue to move. So we don't caulk ours here in the upper Midwest, as most people don't, but we do caulk the seams where the cabinets meets the walls and things. We have experienced some cracking before because caulking and sealants are flexible and they have long cure time. And the enamels we use, even like Scuffex, Chem Aqua, which is a lacquer, is a very quick dry thing comparatively and very brittle. So you can see when you have a squishy, soft thing under, hard, brittle thing over the top, they're going to move and contract and shrink at different rates. So what we did, we just changed our caulking this last year. We did a bunch of experiments, and I don't know the exact name. It is an orange tube of All Pro. I believe it's quick dry. And that actually came from a master craftspeople in Boston, Zach Kenny and his craftspeople there. They helped me out with that too. I just asked them because they can't have gloss oil cracks. So it's like, hey, what do you guys use? They keyed us into it. We use it in our company. It's great. No failures since. So yeah. Brian Chemnitz. When introduced SOPs to your team, did you have any pushback? How do you sell it to your employees and get buy-in? I have one senior painter that's been here for 5 years. Unfortunately, he's not playing nice. You know, again, that's the thing where you have to set the relationship up before that. Because if you just have this monster instruction manual and you slap it down on a job site and say, I don't trust you, so do this, that's not a great relationship. So what you want to do is say, you know, why do we have SOPs? A standard operating procedure creates a beautiful system. During the estimating process, we promise something to our clients. This SOP will deliver that exact thing. If we deliver that exact thing, we keep the trust of the client the entire way through the project, and there's no little weird bumps and things. A standard operating procedure will take all the guesswork out of this. And if it is proven, which it is in our company over many decades, then it's like, this is the fastest, best way. So 5-year employee, if you like pay raises, we need to do good work quickly. This SOP is exactly that. Let's work together. I'll train you. We'll train each other. I want your input. Always ask for input on your standard operating procedures from your craftspeople. Getting them to buy in is all setting up the relationship to say, we need some trust. Trust me, I've tried all of this. I can get a big win for our client, for you, and for this company if we do it this way. Let's do one together. Let's try it out. You tell me where we should change things, modify things, open conversation with stuff like that. Keep your people involved. On exterior projects, do you offer upgrades to super premium products like Rain Refresh? No, for me, Travis, it's basically, we use a premium paint and this is what we use. For me, people will ask for something else, but we just say, listen, we're going to give you a proven product like we talked about before. You got to trust me that we're going to use this. My house is Rain Refresh here. It's fine. It's good. All the paint's good. All that premium stuff is good. So, oh man, Kayla, Nick, thanks for being so amazing. Yes, I've been told I need to take compliments better, so thank you. I appreciate that, Kayla. I will take that as a compliment. Mark Kavanaugh, decorating company in UK. I'm able to rewatch this to see your worksheets. Yes, absolutely. Mark, these are archived forever on Facebook and on YouTube. So the second this show is done, you can actually go back through, rewind, watch through, whatever you like. Let's see what we got here. Wendy Anderson, thanks for the closed caption. Absolutely. That's an awesome Facebook feature too. Rue, I've created my baseline from referral. Yep. Alex Estrada, good morning. What tip do you use for Scuffex? When we're spraying cabinets and trim, the go-to in my company is a FFLP 310 or an HEA 311. The HEA is a Titan tip. The FFLP is a Graco tip. I've also had insanely good luck in my own Slavic house here with some of the purple fine finish tips from Titan. Honestly, you can't beat FFLP and HEA tips. Those things are magical. They've actually been so effective that they have rendered some styles of sprayers completely unnecessary and unneeded because they're doing the work of a many $1,000 sprayer having a dual orifice tip in there. They are magical tips. They're wonderful. Yep. All right, let's go back to Instagram. We have no problem with caulking doors over here in SoCal Paint School. Yes, what's interesting is that I have a cabinet and trim enameling master's class that I travel the country with. It's about a 4-hour thing where we go deep into coating science. I talk to dudes with PhDs in chemistry who actually make coatings that help me sort of develop this master's class. And I used to go around preaching saying, in no circumstances, in no way should you ever caulk a floating panel. I have some awesome craftspeople I know from Arizona who were like very politely like, hey, Nick, here in Arizona, it's always dry. It's always warm. We don't have seasonal movement like you. And we've been caulking them for decades with no problems. Good data point. So I should not be out here saying never, never, never. There are some areas in the world that do this, but I do know for most of us, you would be better off by not caulking those cabinet doors there. But the more temperate your climate, the more stable your climate is, the better off you are to be able to do that kind of stuff. So, Josh Avila, can you please talk a little more about your estimating process, interior and exterior? I will direct you guys to a couple different shows. Do a search for Ask a Painter Live Estimating on Facebook or YouTube, and you're going to find probably 3 main things. There are 2 videos where I actually did a live estimate for actual clients in their house, and it was all live on Facebook. I show you from knocking on the door, walking through the project, going out to my van, printing it off, bringing it back in, and walking them through it. A couple shows ago, 3 or 4 shows ago, I did a show on where does price come from? What do you charge for X? Estimating. And it's not as simple as this costs this, this costs this. I actually show you how I think about the theory and the thought process of coming up with price. It's not that satisfying because it doesn't say charge X for this. But what it will do, it's that whole teach a man to fish sort of thing. If you give somebody that fish, they won't know where to find more fish in the future. They won't know how to think about it. They won't know what goes into it. If you teach yourself to fish, all you do is see a lake and you say, okay, this is a clear rocky lake, so we're going to have trout in this lake. Or this is a green swampy lake, so we're going to have northern pike and sunfish, because I've got lots of data points on those things, and you will be better off. It's a little more painful at first to learn the theory of everything and how to think about things, but in the end, it will relieve all those mysteries. What do you charge for X? My estimator, Andy, and I had to teach ourselves carpentry and drywall estimating this last year. We'd never done it before, but we used the theory behind it because we would ask drywallers, hey, what's the going rate for this? And again, just like the how much water do you put in mud? Nobody knew. Nobody knows their numbers. There's not a square footage. And even if guys had a square footage, well, what's your production rate then? How many square feet can you do an hour? It's like, I don't know. I've been in the trade 40 years. I never figured that out. It's not helpful. You got to know that kind of stuff. And it's better to know the theory behind it so that when every week, estimator Andy and I are given opportunities to bid on projects that we've never bid on before. We have no problem doing this. We bounce ideas off each other. We talk to the production managers. We use thought experiments. We use day rate equivalents. We just say, if a person had to do something like this, we walk through it together saying, how long would it take you to do it? How about you and me to do this? And then we come up with a sort of timeline for something like that. There's nothing we can't estimate. If somebody asks us to estimate a water tower, we could figure that out because we know the basic principles of what material rental costs, equipment rental costs, safety stuff, what people can produce in a day, all that other stuff like that. So I would urge you, look at those resources. Let's see here. Josh, look up those resources, watch those things, and email me, nick@nickslavic.com, and we can talk through any specific things you need. But honestly, those are insanely good resources sometimes. And it just gives you that focus. It just shows you. I mean, what's interesting, I had this discussion with somebody else the other day. I've never seen another painter do an estimate before. I've been doing this for 30 years. I have never seen another person estimate a job before. I do 800 of them myself a year. I'm completely alone on an island. I'm probably doing a disservice to myself for not having seen that. But honestly, it's one of those things where all of this is just made up in my company from experience, from doing 800 a year. So there's probably people, well, not probably, there definitely is people who do this better than me. And I can just offer you one data point. So, all right. Paul Dibdahl. Oh, Paul, how's it going, man? We do about 2 kitchens a week, about 6 to 8 kitchens a month. And let me tell you, you do not caulk those doors. No, Paul's a master, man. If you guys don't follow Paul too, he's got this decorative skill that's just amazing. Master crafts person. So, all right, everybody, let's see if we got any other. Yeah. All right. Last one. All right. Well, thanks, everybody. I think that's it. I'm looking through the questions that I wrote down here. There's a couple of them that I want to get to next time. Somebody asked the awesome question, if you had to start over and do this over again, what would you do? That's a show. That's an entire show. We did yep, exactly. I think we got it, guys. All right. The Rasta mug. Oh, this is funny. Yes, possibly Rasta, but this is actually, my wife made this for me. This is made after a points blanket, which is a Hudson Bay company sort of thing. This is a far northern Canada wilderness blanket. I don't know if I have one in here, but they made them, 100 to 150 years ago, and it's what voyageurs and fur trappers used in blankets. It's a pattern. So yeah, it could be Rasta. I've never thought about that before. So, all right, everybody, thank you for all the questions. Thank you for the interaction. Next week is my 250th show. That's 250 consecutive weeks I've been doing this. If you guys have any special suggestions for that show, you let me know. But otherwise, 250 shows of you guys watching, sharing. I do appreciate this. Kindest thing you can do for the show, like the Ask a Painter live page, follow it. You'll get an instant notification every time I go live. Share the show. Find more like-minded people like us that want to reform the trades, professionalize. Let's get it to them, get them interacting. Also, if you guys would be kind enough to leave me a recommendation or a review on the Ask a Painter live page, those things help. In our paint businesses, we ask for reviews because it does help us in the rankings. If you guys even just say, hey, it's a good show, that helps enormously. We can get to more people, more like-minded people, dog whistle out there to people who want to reform the trades, because we'll all do better when we all do better. And that is sort of the mission of the PCA as well, the Painting Contractors Association. Look for some big things happening. If you guys are interested about the PCA, I would urge you to watch show number 248, last show, with Jason Paris, a friend of mine and the new chairman of the board, chairperson of the board of the PCA. Big changes are coming, folks. I would urge you to get involved, especially when in-person events get back coming here. So, all right, folks, thank you so much for this. I'll be monitoring questions and stuff afterwards, and it's going to be family time for me. So we will see you guys next week.